Hello there, my name is Anita Heiss and I'm the author of Tiddas, the novel, which we are currently adapting for the stage thanks to the Boite Theatre and the Queensland Performing Arts Centre. This week we are in creative development, so why don't you come backstage and see what's going on. Bit of a sneak peek, meet the actors. Okay, come on. Yiridimarung, Yuandu Anita Heiss, Baladu Wiradjuri Geelong. Hi, my name is Anita Heiss and I have Wiradjuri belonging from Arambi and Brungle missions in central New South Wales, and I'm the author of Tiddas the novel and now an emerging playwright as we adapt the novel to stage.
My name is Nadine McDonald-Dowd. I'm a Yabira woman from Mackay, which is in North Queensland, which is my mother's country. I'm working as dramaturg on this adaptation of Tiddas to the stage, working with Anita Heiss.
That's me.
And Sanja, Simic from Boite Theatre. So it's a wonderful collaboration with Anita, Boite Theatre and Queensland Performing Arts Centre.
Well, to me, being a Tidda is being just a really deadly friend or a sister. I know some women who call their mothers Tidda or their daughter Tidda or their auntie Tidda, but for me it's about, it's a reference or an endearing term for a female in your life who you trust, who is loyal to you, who you are loyal to, and who you can share your deepest, darkest concerns and dreams with. So someone a woman who is very dear to you.
Someone who's really quite solid in your life. I think the 5 Tiddas in this story, they exist in our own lives as well. I think everybody can see a really strong Tidda in each of these characters, which is why the story, I feel, is a story for everybody. It's for all peoples, this story. And I think it's the ability to be able to tap into the importance of each of those Tiddas is something quite beautiful in the story.
And I think also it's important to say that Nadine and I have been Tiddas since the 90s, maybe nearly 20 years anyway, so a long time. And that makes us working together that much easier because we've got history and we've got mutual respect, and Tiddas are really about friendship. So Tiddas is the play is based on the novel, which is set in Brisbane, and it's about the challenges and journeys of 5 women, 5 Tiddas, who grew up together in Mudgee on Wiradjuri country. They had their childhood there, their primary school, their high school, and over the course of their adult lives, they all ended up living in Brisbane. And once a month, they meet in a book club, which is their excuse or the springboard for talking about all the things that are important to them in their lives. Each other, their families, their relationships, their working lives, but also their own dreams and dilemmas that they have as well. And really, I mean, Tiddas is partly a love letter to Brisbane, and it's partly an acknowledgement to contemporary sisterhood, as we know it in the 21st century. It's really interesting though, because originally, the original Tiddas were all going to be 5 Wiradjuri women. And the play that we're looking at and we're working on now, based on the novel, has 3 Wiradjuri women and 2 non-Indigenous women, beautiful friends. And that was born out of a conversation with my editor saying, if you want to write an authentic story about sisterhood, which is what I wanted to do, then that story must reflect your own friendship circle. And of course, I have friends from all around the world, from all different cultural backgrounds, and she was absolutely right that I needed to write an authentic story that included non-Indigenous people. But having done that, which is really interesting in the makeup of this friendship group, and we all have women like this, like Veronica's and like Nadine's, who we say have black hearts and are our allies, which is the new terminology for today. But they ask the questions that then they can, in the story, they can unpack terminology around identity, why this, why that. And they're the questions that the characters wouldn't have asked each other if they were all black. So it's important that the characters reflect the society in which we live in the suburbs in which we live in. And so I'm hoping through this story, as it did in the novel, but through the play, that everybody who sees it connects with a character in some way, shape or form.
I think too that the characters in Tiddas are older women, and we don't actually ever get to see a lot of older women's stories on stage, be it black women's stories over the age of 25, 30. And I think that's really important because it reflects a part of, the need to be able to create space on a platform for our stories to be heard, to be shared our way, is really critical, particularly right now.
I think that's a really important point to make, because it's true. We don't have in our circle or on the stage or even much in our literature conversations for Aboriginal women around menopause, around careers over childhood, around, and around our sense of wanting to do something for ourselves, as well as having accountability to community. They're not conversations that we have publicly. So it's great to see it come alive, for me, on the stage as well.
And there are some really wonderful men in this story as well.
So when you write it, I have a methodology for writing a novel. So I have the story idea, I write a synopsis, break down the characters, I go and do all my research, and then I map out the novel like I'm doing an essay plan for the entire book, right? I know the ending before I start. So that's a methodology, and I can write a novel, first draft, to submit to a publisher in about 8 to 10 weeks in this genre. Writing the play, I had no idea. So thanks to Nadine, gave me a whole lot of scripts to read, scripts that had been published, scripts that she had worked on. So and I'd read Jack Davis, and I'd read some Bobby Merritt. So I'd read some black plays previously, obviously Kevin Gilbert's Cherry Pickers, I'd read a number of times. And I'd been to a lot of theatre, but I'd never registered to me how to translate the novel to the page, to the stage, which I think is actually easier than starting from scratch, because at least I had the story. So it took me a while, it took me 9 months until recently to understand how it actually worked, because in a novel you write every detail. You use every sense. What can you smell? What can they see? What can they hear? Every sense, right? So the reader is transported to that moment in time. But in the play, it's all about dialogue and movement, right? So what I did was I just translated the novel into dialogue, and I thought, oh, this isn't too difficult. And of course, in a novel, you have one editor, and in theatre, you have your dramaturg and your creative producer and all the actors in the room telling you, actually, maybe do it this way, maybe do it that way. So it's interesting because I had no idea about the process of improving the script. I had no idea. So it's been very challenging, it's been very daunting, but it's also, it's really good because I've been publishing books for 18 years. No longer than that, but I've published 18 books. So I guess for me, what is the next challenge as a creator? And it's really pushing my buttons, pushing the boundaries. But I've got, I'm in a space with Nadine McDonald-Dowd and Sanja Simic, and I watch them putting things on the wall and moving around dialogue and monologues and duologues. Didn't even know what a duologue was. Duologues and spotlights, and so I'm working with people who know how to make good theatre. So I want to write a good story, and I want it to. Well, I've written a good story, and I want it to be good theatre. So it really is, as opposed to writing a novel, a team effort. It really is. And then when you go into the space with the actors, and and they bring it to life off the page, and it's quite extraordinary. Scary. Yeah, but good. Yeah.
I think the process of it's funny because when you think about theatre, for me, and it's interesting, we've been having some conversations around this, particularly in relation to First Nations theatre, is what is the right play to write? What is the right form to write? There's no actual answer to that, but I think it's drawing on the 60,000 years of storytelling that we genetically bring with us. And I feel with Tiddas, where it is currently, and it's had a lot of drafts. Anita's been working incredibly hard, and where it is at the moment, I think it's kind of starting to bloom, and it's like the jacaranda. It will continue to grow, and I think the way Western construct teaches us of how a play should be is not actually, for me, how it should be. And I don't know what form it will keep evolving into. All I know is that the stories, even though the stories are there, there's something rich that's kind of starting to permeate through now. And it is a sense of those stories kind of coming to life in a different way. Because when I read a novel, I sit there in my own world and I kind of, I smell it and I see it and I sense it and I fall in love with this character, or I loathe this character and then I love them again and I hate them and I cry. So we want to create that whole experience in this space. And it's a big challenge. And I take my hat off to Anita, because taking something that's so close and so strong to you in your heart of Tiddas and the stories attached to that and the connections attached to that story and putting it out there is quite vulnerable. And every playwright kind of goes through that. I could never be a playwright. That's why I'm a dramaturg, because I'm a frustrated playwright. Because I couldn't stand anybody else doing this to me. Like, no, it's a perfect story.
Yeah. Lots of purples. There's jacaranda.
There's jacarandas. I mean, and look, there's even something lovely about the jacaranda as well. It's iconically Brisbane. It's a, there's something quite peaceful and beautiful. Every kind of everyone's got a connection to the jacaranda. When you're at university, if a jacaranda flower falls on your head, you're going to fail. Like, there's these really stupid urban myths, but then the use of Brisbane as a character, because I think Brisbane in this story is very much a character. It is a beautiful love story to Brisbane. But I just feel like, now more than ever, something like your closest family, your Tiddas, your brothers, your family is what we kind of need right now. And I think if anything has kind of come through this time of COVID, which will be in our lives for a long time into the future, is that it's drawing on the importance of what is the most important to you. And even though these 5 women, they have their ups and downs, they have their agreements, their disagreements, they argue, they come together to support each other. There is nothing more sacred than the bond that you have with your sisterhood or your brotherhood. And each of these women are real. They're real, they're beautiful, they're passionate, they're strong, they're courageous, they're proud, and they have such a really beautiful groundedness in them. And you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll see yourself, you'll see other people, and you'll celebrate what it is to be a Tidda.
Yeah, I agree. I hope my goal for the production is that every single audience member walks away having felt something. Empathy for other people in their lives that they've learned through the characters, proud of themselves and their own achievements that they may have seen through the characters, a recognition of a decision that they've made perhaps during their life that was absolutely right, that maybe they needed affirmation with, that they, within the story they'll see that. People will, based on this morning's reading, people will cry and people will laugh. And I want people to walk out feeling good about the city that they live in as well, and loving Brisbane as much as I love it. And I think lots of men will come to the play. I think many men will leave feeling differently about their sisters and their mothers and their girlfriends and their partners and their colleagues and the women in their lives, and realising that we are a force.
And I wish my mum would have had stories like this when she was young.
Well, she can have it now. She can have it now. So we'll see you in 2045.